Hi everyone, welcome back to the Cailin YouTube channel, and if you're new here, welcome. My name is Cailin, and today we're going to be looking at your September 2025 horoscopes. You can watch your horoscope for your ascendant, sun, and moon sign. In fact, I recommend that you do watch for all three because that way you'll have a really well-rounded idea of what you can expect for the month ahead. I'm also on Instagram and Facebook. If you're wanting more regular astrological updates, you can follow me. It's the same handle, which is Cailin. So September is a really exciting month because we have eclipse season. We've got a total lunar eclipse in the sign of Pisces and a new moon solar eclipse in the sign of Virgo. So if you're a Gemini, Virgo, Sagittarius, or Pisces, sun, moon, or rising, definitely be sure to watch your horoscope for that sign because it will be very impactful for you, this eclipse, that is to say. And lastly, just letting you know that I'm actually referring back to my old format where I'm just flowing through the astrological events from the beginning of the month through till the end of the month. And the reason for that is twofold. Firstly, a lot of you said that you prefer those horoscopes, which I was doing before, that they have more flow, and you know what, I tend to agree with you. And secondly, they were taking me probably about twice as long to just execute in totality. So I hope you enjoyed this horoscope. If you do, please give the video a thumbs up. If you'd like to see more content on the channel, please hit the subscribe button, and it would really help me if you could share this video around just to try and grow the channel that little bit more. Thank you so much, and now let's get into your horoscope. Hi Capricorn, Sun, Moon and Risings, welcome to your September 2025 horoscope. As September begins, Venus will still be transiting Leo in your 8th house, so that will be up until the 19th of September. So Venus transiting the 8th house can see there being a big focus on your mutual resources for the first 2.5 weeks of the month. So you could be looking at making important investments or purchases with your significant other. Maybe you are someone who is entrusted with the handling of other people's resources or finances, or perhaps your significant other could potentially be receiving an increase in their personal income or salary, or even a lump sum of money. On a different note, things like inheritances, trust fund, taxes, and even taboo topics could be on your mind for the first 2.5 weeks of September. On a different note, the 8th house is associated with sex, and Venus is the planet of love and relationships. So you may have to basically come face to face with certain fears or insecurities surrounding intimacy, vulnerability, or even just your sex life or your sexuality. Okay, it doesn't matter whether you are single or in a relationship, these topics may be on your mind or coming up for you in some way, shape, or form. So on the 1st of September, Saturn, which is your ruling planet, is going to re-enter the sign of Pisces, which means it will be transiting your 3rd house for another 5.5 months. Basically, this 5.5 month period will see you closing out a 3-year-long cycle that started in March of 2023. So that is when the transit first began. But on a more zoomed out level, this is the end of a 29.5-year cycle because Pisces is the last sign of the zodiac. So the 3rd house rules over communications, plus friends, siblings, and short form education. So some of you may actually be writing a book during this period of time. Maybe you're putting the final or finishing touches to a communications piece or writing piece. It doesn't have to be a book. It can be an essay. It could be a podcast or some other form of content creation. Maybe you are putting together a course, or you could actually be completing a course during this time. Maybe you're finishing up a course and you're receiving a diploma or a qualification, a license, or maybe concluding an apprenticeship. on a different note, the third house rules over skills. So Saturn retrograde through your third house and finishing up in Pisces for, this final end of the cycle could see you mastering a skill. So this could be with your hands, this could be with public speaking, this could be with something that you've been really trying to refine your skills at and learn more about. On a different note, the third house is a social house in astrology, and it's one of the business houses. So maybe you have been educating yourself about marketing, SEO, AI, or something to do with website development or even app creation. So maybe you'll be closing down a business, maybe selling a business, or completing a website or an app or something that's going to be ready for launch more so in the first quarter of next year. I want to say maybe after February, but in saying that, we do have an eclipse in your third house. So if it's not happening in September, October, then maybe you'll be waiting it out till the first quarter of next year. In any case, with the third house ruling over siblings and friends, plus co-workers, clients, and neighbors, sometimes this can indicate that there's a crisis that may occur. So there could be some kind of conflict that needs to be resolved. The good news is that by the end of this transit, you could have made peace with a friend, with a sibling, or perhaps you have been experiencing a bit of discord in your client relationships or with other co-workers on your team. And so this can be a time where you're actually smoothing things out and burying the hatchet. Just bear in mind that Saturn will be at 29 degrees, which is the critical analytic degree, for the first 2 weeks of September and the first 2 weeks of February next year. So these are the, let's say, potential challenge points just to be aware of. But of course, Jupiter is trining Saturn in Cancer this whole time. So that is definitely knocking some of the hard edges off this transit. On the 5th of September, Mars in Libra in your 10th house is going to square Jupiter in Cancer in your 7th house at 18 degrees. So because you are a cardinal sign, this is going to be felt probably by a lot of you, more so those of you around 18 degrees, plus or minus like 3 to 5 degrees. So this could see you experiencing some kind of conflict between your career and maybe your significant other. So I'll give you a few different ways that this whole aspect can play out. If you're in a relationship, maybe your significant other is not super supportive of the work that you're doing or the current responsibilities that you have, professionally speaking. Or maybe you are in an industry that's going to make it really hard for you to meet someone. So for example, maybe you work remotely, or maybe you're interested in the opposite sex, but you're in an industry that is dominated by people of the same sex, right? So other ways that this can play out is that you may not be happy with a contract that has been presented to you. Maybe you're coming off a probationary period, or you are just trying to negotiate a higher income, as an example, and your employer or your boss could be pushing back on this. On a different note, even if you are self-employed or not, it doesn't matter. Perhaps your existing portfolio and list of services is not all encompassing, and you could have a client or several clients who are demanding more of you or asking more of you. In a nutshell, Capricorn, Mars represents the challenge and Jupiter represents the growth edge or opportunity to expand. So to me, it looks like you are being pushed, corralled, or strongly encouraged to take a challenge or take a risk. Or maybe you're wanting to do this, but there's someone in your life who's saying, don't, not for you, you won't be happy if you do this, or you'll make me unhappy if you do that. So there could be some conflict in that way. So on the 7th or the 8th of September, depending where you live in the world, there will be a total full moon eclipse in Pisces in your 3rd house at 15 degrees. And it will be in a wide conjunction with Saturn at 29 degrees. So I mention that because Saturn is at that critical degree. It's at the very end of Pisces, and it is your chart ruler. And the full moon eclipse, or the total lunar eclipse, is wanting to bring something to an end, bring something through to completion. So there could be something significant that happens around September, or maybe even in October, that relates to communications, writing, a project that you've been working on, a sales campaign, social media platforms, or your presence online. All this could be to do with receiving a qualification, and also maybe friends, okay? So you could be launching a business, concluding an education course, receiving some kind of certification, or you could be reuniting with friends or siblings, maybe reconciling. The other side of that coin is maybe deciding that it's time to just distance yourself from certain people in your life who've maybe been around for a long time. On a different note, you could simply be having a really important conversation with a sibling, with an extended relative, or even with a friend. And this could be something that connects you to that Saturn retrograde story, or let's just say Saturn finishing its transit through the sign of Pisces. So you may have an important realization or epiphany around September, or maybe even October, where you're deciding, I want to get qualified in this, I want to complete this course, I want to produce this course, I want to go into a business with a friend, or whatever way it plays out for you. Okay, so on the 19th of September, Venus is going to enter the sign of Virgo, which means we'll be transiting your 9th house until the 13th of October. Wherever Venus transits, we can enjoy whatever that house rules or whatever it represents, and sometimes we can even find love, right? So Venus transiting the 9th house could indicate that there's maybe some kind of increase in sales, especially if this involves import and export. On a different note, this could see there being an opportunity for you to travel, whether that is interstate or abroad. Maybe there are opportunities for you to get more cultured, maybe to attend things like art exhibitions and galleries and so on and so forth. On a different note, maybe you'll find love or experience some kind of romantic situation, or even simply a flirtation while you are traveling, or maybe while they are traveling. And also the 9th house rules over education, teachers, coaching, and mentorship. So Venus transiting your 9th house could see you possibly stepping into that role, or having that opportunity to coach someone or mentor someone, and that could be something that you really enjoy. But the shoe could be on the other foot, where you may be seeking advice from a coach or mentor, or even engaging with someone in terms of a collaboration. Maybe they're helping you in terms of like a business coach or a life coach. All right, so on the 21st or the 22nd of September, depending where you live in the world, there will be a new moon solar eclipse in Virgo in your 9th house at 29 degrees. Again, this is the critical anaretic degree in astrology. For some of you, it might just be 28 degrees and 59 minutes, but let's just call it 29 degrees, shall we? So it's trining you, first of all. So this is super positive. Again, the 9th house rules over education, teachers, mentors, travel, and also your belief systems, right? So I'll run through a few different ways that this can play out. Just remember, new moon solar eclipses are like new moons, but amplified on steroids, okay? So it's like a supercharged new beginning in your life. For some of you, this could indicate that you're wanting to study something, or take your existing studies further, maybe even returning to some kind of education program that you had previously been enrolled in or previously considered. Now, You may have the opportunity to step into the role of teacher, mentor, or coach. Perhaps you are going to be engaging the services of a teacher, mentor, or coach. So maybe Venus transit your ninth house gave you that little taste of it, and you're like, this is for me. I'm into this. Let's roll with it. So with travel, there could be an important travel trip that you are planning, maybe even a stint living abroad or interstate. So you could be buying plane tickets. Maybe this opportunity to travel comes about quite suddenly, or you just weren't really putting your attention here, and now it's like, yeah, this is what I want to do. This is what I feel called to do. On a different note, you could be traveling for spiritual purposes, political reasons, or even religious reasons. The ninth house, like I said, rules over your belief systems. So a new moon solar eclipse in your ninth house could see you having a huge awakening or epiphany with respect to your belief systems, religious, spiritual, political, philosophical, or even your own personal code of ethics and your moral compass. Because it's at 29 degrees, this eclipse, you may experience some kind of moral dilemma, or you may feel like your beliefs are being challenged, especially because this eclipse is going to oppose Saturn in Pisces in your third house. So Saturn will be at 28 degrees. So you may feel like there's someone who's pushing back on you wanting to just like spread your wings and fly. All right. So there may be some naysayers, let's say. The ninth house also rules over legal matters and the law. Because this new moon solar eclipse contains the south node, whatever is happening here, you're already aware of it. Okay. So I don't want you to listen to this and be like, new legal court case. Well, I never. No, this would be something that either you're bringing up, maybe you're bringing a legal case against another person, or you have something that is already in motion or that you're aware of and that you're needing to address or to iron out. The ninth house rules over import and export, as well as publishing and even your vision for your future. So you could be working on getting a book published or a piece of writing published. This could be indicative of your work becoming more globally, more well received, so reaching a much wider audience. And because the ninth house is related to your vision for your future, a new moon solar eclipse in your ninth house could be an awakening for you in terms of, I know what my path is in life, or simply put, I know what the next step is that I need to take. I feel inspired again. I have faith. I'm wanting to take that leap of faith or take a risk. And, without putting this under any particular umbrella or category, the ninth house is associated with adventure. So I feel like many Capricorns will be embarking on some kind of new adventure for their life that, I don't know, just my intuitive feeling is that it's quite exciting, and it feels rather spiritual in nature as well. Lastly, for the month Capricorn, on the 22nd of September, Mars will enter the sign of Scorpio, which means it will transit your 11th house for 6 weeks until the 4th of November. The 11th house rules over our long-term goals and dreams, as well as passive and residual forms of income. So wherever Mars transits, this is where we can be really gung-ho and be putting a lot of our energy and attention into whatever that house represents. So when Mars transits the 11th house, we can be unstoppable when it comes to our goals and our dreams for the future. And these aren't like, woo-woo, off with the fairies pipe dreams. No, the 11th house is like, this is feasible, this is actionable, and I'm going to come up with a step-by-step process, the Capricorn way, to achieve my goals and objectives. So some of you may be looking at generating a passive or residual form of income. You could be looking at getting investors on board, maybe even inventing something new. So this could be a very innovative time for you. Maybe you're looking at technology, AI, acquainting yourselves with certain software programs and features. On a different note, because the 11th house rules over business, maybe you're wanting to pursue some kind of business idea or venture in quite an aggressive way, or just a determined way, let's say. On another note, Mars going through the 11th house can present some conflictual situations with our online platform, our network, our friends, or even older siblings, but I don't see it as a negative. Basically, the 11th house is associated with awards, accolades, and it's the house of gains. So Mars going through the 11th house to me just indicates that you're going to be doggedly pursuing your goals and your objectives. So Capricorn, that's all I have for you for your September horoscope. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and maybe share it around. If you want to see more content, please hit the subscribe button. And if you're wanting more content in terms of astrological updates in between these monthly videos, then you can follow me on Instagram and or Facebook, which is just Cailin. It's the same handle. Enjoy your month ahead, Capricorn, and I'll see you in October.